What's up, guys? All here, and here we want to do a breakdown / live reaction and review and analysis of Eternal Flames Awaken Yuji versus the heavy hitters, the Slobberknockers, the meat not. Whoa. Pause. Take it back. But we got so much to talk about, so little time, literally because I'm under the effects of a binding vow. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me, are you ready?
Please editing me. Are you ready? Please, I'm begging you.
3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact. Are you subscribed to Eternal Flame? If you aren't, please remedy that issue. His link and the link to the original video will be in the description down below. I implore you. My man is 1.43. I'm bad at math. I like the video too. Go like the original videos. 1.43 away from 10K. I'm way up there. Get quality content, please. But real quick, because once again I'm under binding vow criteria, so I can't talk for too long. Yuji versus the heavy hitters. If you think Sukuna is still like entirely untouchable and none of the Black Flashes really did much to reduce his output, and like you still think that he just could blitz everybody else, like every other heavy hitter, just as he did in their respective fight, and obviously Hakari Kenji has no feats on Sukuna, so it's kind of irrelevant for him, then yeah, Yuji beats them all. He beats the brakes off of all of them. If you just assume that Yuji, relative to current Sukuna is still above everybody else, then yeah, Yuji would just like Perception Blitz soul punch them all. If you don't think that, and you think like, oh, Yuji's still getting tagged by regular dismantles. Oh, Yuji is fighting a super duper uber juper weakened Sukuna who seemingly is destined to keep getting hit by Black Flashes. Yuji doesn't necessarily have the feats yet to imply that he could like knock away a full chant dismantle like Maki did, or you know, survive one like Yuta has, and even survive it to the point where his domain wouldn't fall down. Like, there's still ways. Honestly, let me just do each one real quick. Obviously, Yuji beats the brakes off of base Hakari. I don't think I need to convince you of that. Jackpot Hakari, if Jackpot Hakari gets in a loop on a roll, Yuji and him will fight forever. They are both endurance and stamina monsters, and thusly, I have no idea who to win that fight. If Hakari does not start in Jackpot, though, Yuji may beat the brakes off him before he can get his first Jackpot. That's entirely possible. I could see that happening. We don't know what happens if Hakari gets knocked out in his own domain and he doesn't have, like, refresh or time reversal on, which he only has in certain conditions, so, like, he may be cooked. I think Hakari's cooked regardless. He may get soul punched. Maki, you know, Maki meat munch. If you think, once again, that dismantle speeds are uniform or not uniform or something in between, if you think anything about dismantle speeds, then Maki's still the only one to consistently dodge, react to, knock away them. Yuji, despite nerfing Sukuna into the ground, is still getting tagged by them. Even though we know he can somewhat perceive them. We see him perceive them as early as 247 when he barely blocks them. So, like, the man still can't dodge him after hitting numerous Black Flashes. Unfort. Bulk-wise, doesn't matter. Soul Split Katana, Yuji ain't resisting that if Sukuna ain't resisting that. So, Maki may still, you know, precog, slice him up, GG. Even with his ability to heal himself through RCT and obviously blood manipulation, Maki would do enough damage quickly enough that, yeah, I don't really think he's beating Maki. But once again, if you give Yuji just relatively to current Sukuna and you just assume current Sukuna is still above everybody, then yeah, he beats Maki. Because current Sukuna was able to land a Black Flash on Maki, and she wasn't able to do anything about that. Once again, I can see that argument. It's perfectly fine you think he beats Maki. I'm even 50-50 on that. Once again, it's up to the interpretation. I'm not sure where Flame's going to go. Probably going to give it to Yuji. I mean, like, it's still fair enough. Like, you can make the arguments. He's not beating Yuta, though. I'm sorry. Yuji's still not beating Yuta. He's not beating Rika and Yuta at the same time. He's not. He's not doing that. Yuji's not stronger than the Sukuna that Yuta fought. And then had locked away in his domain. And remember, Yuji right now is a Jacob's Ladder victim. So no matter how high you put him, you can't get him past Yuta. I'm sorry, all the Yuji top... Well, you can still have Yuji in top 5 if you want to. He's still just below Yuta, though. And below Gojo and Sukuna, obviously. But those are my thoughts real quick. Binding Vow still activated. Let's actually hop to the video itself.
Hello everybody, I'm Eternal Flame here, and today I'm here to do a little bit of a versus battle for today. Now, it has been a while since I have done a versus battle, and this is one that I think is really interesting, especially considering some new things we have recently learned about Yuji Itadori, as well as his awakening, and some of his abilities that were kind of uncertain until now, which is the fact that Yuji has learned Simple Domain. And that versus battle is Yuji versus the Heavy Hitters. Now, I do want to note this, we are not...
Oh, okay. I'm assuming he's not going to do all of them at the same time, because obviously Yuji loses that. He's not surviving Jump Kaisen. But I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, Pencil Man, what about Yuji's Simple Domain? Can he use that to resist Yuta's domain? Yeah, the sure hit effect. What is he going to do when Yuta and Rika start wombo comboing him? Even if, like, here's the thing. You can make a real solid argument that Yuji is now confirmed to be one of the bulkiest characters in the verse. He supposedly ate a full output Malevolent Shrine. Crazy. Devious. I still don't think he's bulkier than the Sukuna that him and Yuta were fighting inside Yuta's domain. And Yuta's still able to damage that Sukuna with regular sword slashes. Heaven forbid he hits Yuji with a thin icebreaker. And once again, who knows how much of Yuji's bulk is predicated on the siblings that are inside him. Yuji drops that Simple Domain for half a second, he gets vaporized by Jacob's Ladder. Unfortunately, he ain't an evil spirit, but he got some evil spirits up in his guts. Not in that way, yet. But, like, he's cooked. I'm sorry, Yuta, I know a certain Yuta fan's gonna be in the comment section doing a hop and a jig, but, like, I'll get right now. Until Yuji gets the domain of his own, I cannot put him above Yuta. I can't. I'll give you Maki based on just the interactions they have with Sukuna, and unless you do some roundabout, if you do dismantle speed scaling, that's it. And we know that Sukuna can eclipse the speed of his dismantles, but clearly he's not doing that against Yuji, so I'll give you Maki. I'll give you Hakari. You know I'd give you Hakari. Like, I know the big thing that's going to be surprising people is me giving Maki, but I can't give Yuta. He's not enough. He's not enough yet. And as powerful as Yuji is, as crazy as his soul seeking punches are, they clearly aren't that crazy. Sukuna's doing just fine. After 7 Black Flashes. Not just fine, obviously. His RCT output is booty meat. But once again, I don't think it's going to be as effective on Yuta as it is Sukuna, because there's no in-between that Yuji's going to be able to target. Clearly the punches on Duranek, Sukuna's bulk still has been taken into account. And Yuta's still arguably just as bulky as Yuji is, if not still more. Because remember, a big reason why Yuji could probably take a lot of Sukuna's slashes so well is because he's also Sukuna. Literally is in the sense that Sukuna is kind of his daddy unk, and also he's literally a Sukuna figure that's walking, talking, and breathing. So the slashes and their effects on Yuji would be lesser than what Yuta took. So yeah, I'm not giving Yuta. That's the one thing. I'll not give Yuta. I'll give you Maki. Though that's going to be a hard-fought fight. I'll make my own versus battle on that, because that's the interesting one. We'll toss that up in the air. But and I'll give you a card. But not Yuta. But let's see.
Not doing Yuji versus the Heavy Hitters on, like, them all jumping Yuji, because that's absolutely insane. And I don't think I need to tell you guys that Yuji absolutely loses that fight really badly. But we're here to do Yuji versus each of the Heavy Hitters individually to see how he does, and mainly so I can put my opinion out there on how Yuji does against each of the Heavy Hitters. Now, I am going to go in order from what I think Yuji is most likely to win all the way to what I think Yuji is the least likely to win, and talk...
Hakari, Maki, Yuta. That's like legit just the ranking of the Heavy Hitters too. Like for most people, obviously, I think that I know God hate me, but and I'll admit I'm an agenda pusher. I'm not lying. I'm not trying to deny it. I push agendas. So like the Maki agenda in me still has me thinking she could pull a dub out against Yuta. It'd be a rough dub. It'd be a hard dub, especially with Rika there. But I don't know. Yuta just doesn't have the speed feats. At least in my opinion, he doesn't. So and that's when he's domain amped, and he wouldn't even be able to use his domain against Maki. Especially if you consider what the recent chapter talks about. If you think Dismantle is a higher complex function to be applied to a domain, then Yuta couldn't even, like, manipulate Malevolent Shrine. Or, like, make a bootleg Malevolent Shrine with a closed barrier. He simply could not hit Maki with domain. That's based on the recent chapter. I'll go more in depth about that when I talk about Yuta versus Maki. Or even aspects of Yuta versus Maki, because I do want to do a couple videos on that beforehand. But yeah, it's Hakari, Maki, Yuta. That's the common community consensus. I won't even fight y'all on that. Because I also think, just in overall power and general matchup-wise, yeah, Yuta would be more powerful. He has the more diverse kit. Maki is just a soul split merchant. She's a soul split katana merchant. You take that blade out of her hands, what's she doing? She ain't doing anything too crazy. But with Soul Split and the reaction speed, it can get crazy. So let's see.
Each of those characters in their respective scalings with each of those battles. Now, something that does need to be stated and is very, very important to understand is the fact that JJK is an extremely matchup-dependent series, where some of these characters might actually end up losing to other people or just be considered stronger than them usually, but have a really bad matchup against someone like Yuji. So don't take this as my ranking of the heavy hitters, just how I think they would do against Yuji thanks to their respective arsenals and abilities, as well as their stats. However, before I go into any of the heavy hitter scalings, I'm going to go into Awakened Yuji scaling, because while I have talked about Shinjuku Yuji, I have yet to talk about Awakened Yuji, and how strong Awakened Yuji should be in comparison to Shinjuku Yuji. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. Now, in order to talk about Awakened Yuji and how strong Awakened Yuji should be, I do need to talk a little bit about how strong Shinjuku Yuji is, which Shinjuku Yuji has displayed several feats of relativity to Yuta Akotsu inside of his own domain.
I just realized I completely forgot to unmute. Unfort. Editing me, cut that. But, essentially the thing I said, Flame brought up the idea of, well, his ranking of the heavy hitters here isn't indicative of the ranking because of the matchup specificity in JJK. I think, ultimately, the matchup specificity in JJK does not matter, or at least for the ranking of the heavy hitters. Hakari has no AP. He has no AP feats at all, ever. They do not exist. If you can find them, tell me. He does basically no damage to Kashimo, basically no damage to Urube. Unfortunate. Thusly, he's a pillow puncher. Thusly, he's a Maki victim. Thusly, he's a Yuta victim. Both who have feats of damaging people much, much stronger and much, much more durable than Hakari is shown to be. Womp womp, little bro. It goes Hakari, it goes Maki, it goes Yuta. And the general community consensus in power, matchup-wise, most of the time, once again, unless you are like me and make certain arguments for Maki. You can get mad about it. And you can have full right to get mad about it. I can 100% be wrong.
Expansion against Sukuna in the battle, with both Yuji and Yuta repeatedly comboing Sukuna several times. Furthermore, we have also seen Yuji repeatedly push back Sukuna with his hits several times. Durability is especially a really good place for Yuji because we see Yuji directly tank several slashes right from Sukuna, the same amount that Yuta Akotsu tanked inside of the domain as well before they both had to heal it off. Now, it should also be noted, Yuji is still coated in Sukuna's Curse Energy, and we don't know for sure or not if that even nerfs Sukuna's attacks on him, but it could very well be possible that it does, but it's to some unquantifiable degree because we don't actually know the amount it does nerf it by. So I feel saying that their durability is relative is pretty fair for base Yuta Akotsu and Yuji Itadori before he gets awakened. However, now I'm going to talk about the amp that Yuji gets from being awakened both on an ability front and a stat front. Now, it should be noted, it has basically been confirmed that the amp you get from landing a Black Flash ends up stacking in JJK. The reason why I say it's basically been confirmed is because when Yuji has landed several Black Flashes, Sukuna just straight up says, does he intend to climb to my level? Furthermore, we also have several other examples of the Black Flash stacking in terms of its amp, that being Mahito and Gojo, with Gojo regaining more and more of his RCT output and needing 2 Black Flashes in order to fully regain his output, as well as Mahito needing 2 Black Flashes in order to activate his true form. The reason why this is important to note and explain is because of the fact that Yuji has landed 7 Black Flashes. 7 Black Flashes that all have an amp to it of 120% of Yuji's potential being fully realized, each Black Flash being stacked upon each other, making Yuji much, much better with his abilities and much more powerful. This amp is so massive that Yuji is able to combo up Sukuna and actually pressure him down to the point where Sukuna starts to seem a little bit flustered and angry by everything that Yuji is doing with this.
Our family history results are in. My great-great-grandfather came through Ellis Island.
Massive amount of combos that he has been landing on him. Now, it should be noted, it isn't full power Sukuna. This is still an extremely damaged Sukuna who is missing a heart and has his output nerfed. However, I do want to say this as well. Having your output nerfed should not affect your speed, but it should affect the speed of your techniques. Now, the reason why having your output nerf should not affect your speed at all is because if it did affect your speed, Ryu would be perception blitzing a lot of characters right now because he has the greatest output in all of the calling games. However, the reason we know it does affect your attack speed is purely because of Urame. The reason why we know this is because when Urame used their Icefall attack back in Shibuya, several characters who were much slower than Maki were actually able to react to it. However, when Urame used it at 100%, while Maki could react to it, she couldn't do anything about it and she could not dodge it. Which means maximizing your output should affect the technique speed, but it shouldn't actually affect your own physical stats and your own physical speeds. This is also supported by the fact that Gojo uses Chance in order to amplify his Hollow Purple to be at 200% output with the help of Utahime in order to blitz Sukuna or near blitz Sukuna. Now, Sukuna could still react to it, but it was incredibly fast. However, finally, we're going to get into the most important section of this, the thing that Yuji gained over the time skip, which is abilities, because Yuji no longer just has access to throwing rocks at people that are imbued with cursed energy as well as a divergent fist, because he has actually gained quite a few abilities. One of the most important abilities that Yuji has gained access to is reverse curse technique, and while Yuji is very, very durable and very sturdy and very difficult to hurt already, Yuji having reverse curse technique, especially to the level that Yuji does have access to, is absolutely insane. Where Yuji has healed off several lethal wounds from Sukuna, and he did struggle with healing one of them, but that was more so because he couldn't actually find where in his body he had to heal, not because he was struggling in terms of cursed energy reserves, but that's mainly because Yuji has a very hacks and cheaty way of actually being able to heal that most people don't have access to. And this is all before he landed 7 Black Flashes, which means his RCT should be massively superior in comparison to what it was before he landed those Black Flashes, since landing Black Flashes is an all-around amp. However, Yuji's cheat code at being able to heal is actually because of the fact that Yuji has access to blood manipulation and the ability to reproduce his own blood without needing to use RCT for it. The reason why that this is such a massive thing for Yuji Itadori is because of the fact that most people who do use RCT actually need to recreate literally everything in the body, from the bone to the muscle tissue all the way to the blood. Yuji is able to substitute this by not needing to make the blood and being able to do that through blood manipulation, which conserves a large amount of curse energy for him to be able to use RCT. Now, he still needs to use RCT to regenerate everything else, but he doesn't need to use RCT in order to regenerate the blood, and as y'all know, a massive part of the body is made up of water, which is blood, which really helps Yuji in terms of having to heal. Furthermore, it's also been confirmed in the most recent chapter that Yuji has the body of a death painting, which allows Yuji to convert his curse energy into blood. This should also mean that Yuji's blood is poisonous against sorcerers as well. The reason why this is the case is because he should have the same body that Choso, Eso, and Kechizu have, which they also have poisonous blood towards sorcerers as well. Now, the reason why this hasn't come up in this battle is because of the fact that Sukuna is basically immune to poisons. Now, I know there is some debate about the translation, but the actual debate about the translation is whether calling Sukuna a lethal poison or the king of poisons back in the Junpei fight. What is a constant no matter what with the translation is the fact that Sukuna is immune to all poisons. So of course Yuji having poisonous blood to sorcerers would not come up in this fight. However, because of the fact that Yuji has the same body as a death painting, he should have access to that poisonous blood as well. Now, we don't know how skilled Yuji is with blood manipulation post-landing 7 Black Flashes. However, we do know pre-landing 7 Black Flashes, Yuji was not able to use Convergence. However, because of the fact that it has not been confirmed whether Yuji can use Convergence yet or not, we are not going to grant Yuji that ability. What we can grant Yuji, however, is the ability to spit blood onto opponents, as well as expand that blood through doing that, as well as the ability to reattach limbs that are detached from his body, in a similar way to how Choso did against Kenjaku. Speaking of reattaching and detaching limbs, Yuji also has access to Cleave. Now, I will say Yuji's Cleave that he has access to is not as good as Sukuna's Cleave, as Sukuna himself says that they have low output because of the fact that Yuji has just freshly learned the technique. However, I don't think they're as bad as some people might think they are, mainly because of the fact that we do actually see them land deep cuts into Sukuna's leg that he ends up peeling off. However, because of the fact that they are still able to damage Sukuna's leg and cut off parts of his leg like that, it should still be able to do numbers on people if it actually manages to hit them. However, what's even more important to note and establish is the fact that the longer and more Yuji uses Cleave, the better he ends up getting with Cleave, which is going to make it have even greater output and be even harder to actually fight back against. Now finally, Yuji has access to Kusakabe's new Shadow Style Simple Domain. This is mainly because Yuji has soul swapped with Kusakabe. Now we don't know if Yuji has access to the other applications of Kusakabe's Simple Domain and the ability to make it as massive as Kusakabe did, but we do know Yuji has access to his Simple Domain and that it was able to last for less than 90 seconds against Sukuna's full output domain. And while that might not sound impressive, I do want to remind y'all, this is Sukuna's domain expansion. We also do not know how long Yuji had survived the domain for, but we also know Yuji was able to keep it up for around 90 seconds because it seems like the domain did collapse on its own. However, the longer and longer Yuji ended up surviving that domain, the better and better Yuji actually gets durability feats wise, because Yuji actually survived it for a little bit with only his leg getting cut off by Sukuna's full output domain. Now, I've seen people try and downplay this feat by saying Choso, Miwa, and Ino's Simple Domain managed to survive while Yuji's did not. However, I will say we should wait until the next chapter to see if they actually did or not, because we have no idea whether they did or not. All we know is Yuji's Simple Domain did not survive, and it's too early to say whether they did or didn't. So yeah, that's Yuji's entire toolkit, because he has a pretty massive toolkit now, so now we're actually going to get into the matchups and how Yuji does against each of them. Now, the first heavy hitter that we're going to talk about in this versus battle is Hakari Kinji. And I hate to be this guy, because
Ooh. Flame, you don't hate it. You love to spread the truth, Flame. I know you love to spread the truth. Let's hear this Hakari slander. I did the black beard if I really could.
though the Hakari fans are about to get really angry at me, Hakari loses this battle. Now, even if we are super charitable to Hakari, we say that Hakari is equal to Yuta Akotsu with his domain expansion and Yuta's 7 techniques by Gojo's own statement, saying that the character should not enter into the field unless Gojo ends up weaker than Hakari or Yuta Akotsu. I'm going to say this. How is Hakari putting Yuji down at all? When all Hakari has access to is punching and kicking, which Yuji is just going to heal off, or is just going to tank and be fine with. After all, if Yuji is able to take several slashes from Sukuna and then heal those off, he is definitely going to be able to take these hits from Hakari. Especially considering something else that has been confirmed in the most recent chapter as well, which is the fact that one of the black flashes were from Sukuna as well. Because of the fact that Yuji had only landed 7 black flashes, which means 1 black flash was when Sukuna landed and not Yuji landed. And the fact that Yuji inside of Sukuna's domain, which was at full output, was able to take several of the slashes. Now yes, he did take critical damage from them, but he didn't immediately die.
And remember, those are cleaves. Those are auto-adjust durability type thing. Yuji should be dead. Full output cleaves, y'all. And he lived and lost only a leg. You need to somehow argue that Hakari has similar potency to that. And you can't. You cannot. I'm sorry, Hakari fans. Even if you were to slop, and once again, I mean get on your knees, unzip his pants, and gargle the whole thing in the back of your throat, you cannot. You cannot. You simply can't. If it wasn't full output, maybe. If this wasn't cleave, maybe. By just saying, oh, he's equal to Yuta, so he has to be as strong as Yuta, even though he's a literal pillow puncher. You can't, though. Because this is a full output cleaves Yuji eats. Breakfast, lunch, dinner with a snack on the side. Hakari's not doing anything to him. It's an eternal battle, I'll give you all that. If you argue that Yuji could never beat him in base while they're in domains, they fight forever, and then Hakari eventually wins after like 10 years. They would fight like Akainu and Aokiji did on Punk Hazard 10 days. I don't think that's right now, but still, they would fight forever. So maybe Hakari wins in that case, but once again, I still think Yuji would beat the brakes off base Hakari if ever given the chance.
And he was able to reattach his leg. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing Hakari do that massive amount of damage to Yuji, and eventually what I see happening is it going down one of 3 scenarios. Scenario A, Hakari stops getting lucky and Yuji is able to put enough damage on him to put him down inside of a domain expansion, or Scenario B, Yuji uses blood manipulation in order to hold Hakari's hand still to prevent him from using a domain expansion and then beat him down from there. Or Scenario C, Yuji literally uses Hakari as a cleave and dismantle training dummy in order for him to get stronger with cleave and dismantle, slowly amplifying his ability with it more and more, because as Sukuna himself stated that the reason why that the technique was so low on output was because it was freshly learned. Or Scenario D, Yuji keeps landing Black Flash after Black Flash on Hakari and keeps getting stronger until he eventually reaches a point where he can kill Hakari in the in-between time in between Jackpot and not having a Jackpot active. Like, Yuji in general is just a very bad matchup for Hakari, because Hakari doesn't really have a way to put Yuji down, and his only chance is really outlasting Yuji, which is incredibly difficult considering Yuji basically has a cheat code around RCT, and he has a way to counter Hakari's domain expansion, or at least prevent him from using a domain if he thinks about using it in the right way, which I'm pretty sure Yuji would eventually come to the realization of maybe I should use my blood manipulation to hold him down, or maybe he ends up getting lucky eventually by landing a cleave in the in-between time for Hakari to activate a domain expansion and not activate a domain expansion. So I give this fight to Yuji Itadori mainly because I just don't see a way that Hakari can win at all. Now I do think it would be difficult for Yuji to win, but he would eventually end up winning after figuring out a way to get around Hakari. Now up next I'm going to go into Yuji versus Maki. And Yuji versus Maki is a very, very interesting fight in my opinion. I do believe in terms of physical stats the two of them are relative, considering both their abilities to push Sukuna back into walls. However, I will give Maki the edge in speed, mainly because of her ability
My toes are curled.
To dodge a chant amp dismantle. However, Maki has a total of 3 very big advantages in this battle. Number 1, her massive sense of precognition and area sensory. This is going to allow her to keep constant surveillance on Yuji, basically hear where he's coming from 24/7, and allow her to sneak up on Yuji pretty often, which is also going to be very, very useful when put into combination with Maki's other ability, which is the Soul Split Katana. With the Soul Split Katana's ability to just straight up ignore durability of anybody by directly attacking the soul itself. Now, if you are aware of the soul, you are actually able to heal attacks from the Soul Split Katana, which Yuji Itadori is in fact aware of the soul because of the fact that he's able to damage Sukuna's soul and directly target the barrier between Megami and Sukuna's soul. Finally, Maki has the ability to completely disappear from Curse Energy Sensory, which allows her to be basically impossible to sense and make her the perfect stealth ninja. Also, because this is very important as well, Maki has the ability to air hop, which is an ability that Yuji does not seemingly have access to. Even though Yuji does have the ability to jump pretty high, he doesn't have the ability to jump on the air and basically fly, which is another advantage that Maki has over Yuji Itadori. Maki does also have access to a healing factor, but said healing factor seems to be less efficient than just RCT in general. Now, I see this versus battle going the exact opposite of how Hakari versus Yuji went, where this battle ends up being just a couple minutes long or a couple seconds long, but I see this end up being a battle where Yuji loses, and loses pretty badly. Now, while yes, Yuji does have the capability and possibility of being able to heal the Soul Split Katana wounds because of the fact he is aware of the soul, thus he should be able to heal his own soul. I don't think it's going to be fast enough for him to have to deal with that while also fighting against Maki, who is going to be relentless and immediately go for a lethal wound. And the second that they do end up going for a lethal wound, it's basically GG because of the fact that Maki can basically ignore durability through the Soul Split Katana. Now, Yuji will probably know to avoid the Soul Split Katana and avoid getting hit by it, but I see it being inevitable that Yuji does end up getting hit by it before he can really gain any ground in this fight and actually use it to his advantage. Now, I will say this also. There are ways that Yuji has to be able to actually counter the Soul Split Katana, but they are very much out of character for Yuji to use, so they will not be factored into this fight. For those who are curious, this is much more of a Choso way to do it than a Yuji way to do it, which is basically using his blood manipulation either on the katana itself to guide it away from himself or just block it, because as Sukuna has displayed, it is possible to use your curse technique to block the Soul Split Katana and stop it from coming at you, and it won't ignore the durability of your curse technique, or just using your blood manipulation around their hands in order to guide the slices away and basically make it that much harder for them to actually hit, which would be a way that would actually allow Yuji to win if it wasn't for the fact that this is massively out of character for Yuji to do, and this is a much more Choso thing to do, so I just see Yuji just not do.
And also, it's hard to tell if he can even do something at that high level. Like, he can use Supernova, which is very high level blood manipulation, but like, he hasn't even shown the ability to like make this basic blood manipulation cuffs that Choso has done before, which is weird. His blood manipulation is really booty. Like, I'll be real. I'm sorry. I love Yuji, but like, he can't even do convergence on his own. He did Supernova just barely, and it did basically no damage to Sukuna, and no flowing red scale stack. Oh no, the best thing he got from blood manipulation so far was his regeneration.
Mainly because of who he is as a person and his combat intelligence. I don't even see Yuji thinking of this because while I do think Yuji is very battle IQ smart-wise, I don't think Yuji is that battle IQ smart-wise, because like the only one who's come up with this type of ability is Sukuna himself, you know, the combat god. However, I will say, without the Soul Split Katana, Yuji more than definitely wins against Maki, but it's because Maki does have access to the Soul Split Katana and her particular set of abilities that make it so she wins against Yuji, in my opinion, in this battle, with a very mid-difficulty, where Maki just ends up eventually cutting Yuji and just winning.
I agree. But the thing is, I 100% agree. I said it before, I'll say it again. Maki is an SSK merchant. There's nothing to suggest her regular attack could even damage Yuji. Once again, even before the feat in 258, there's nothing to suggest. Maki and Toji without SSK have booty attack potency feats. I stand by that. That's the one thing. I agree. I say this all the time, especially as a Maki and Toji beat buncher. You take away SSK and their AP is booty. It peaks at special grade curse level, which is not even top 10 anymore. Their best bare hand feats are against a teen Gojo who was off guard, and then a teen Gojo who was tired, and then Geto, who was still a teen, and apparently a high-grade one if you read that chart the right way. And then Dagon. And that's Prime Toji, by the way. And he was and Daga was kind of eating the hits, especially go by the anime. So yeah, without SSK, Maki has to like run away. Like she cannot do damage to Yuji, and every single hit he lands is just gonna do real damage. So like, yeah, absolutely, SSK merchants undeniably. That's the I'll make a video talk about that. Like they are horrid AP
because
wise.
the Soul Split Katana plus unable to sense buff is very, very busted as a combo. Sack that with the air hop. And now finally we're going to move on to Yuta Akotsu. Now I'm going to say this, and when I say this, I want everyone to understand this. Yuta wins and absolutely slams Yuji really badly, and it's not close. Yuji's only win con, and I mean only win con, is preventing Yuta Akotsu from using his domain expansion or manifesting Rika fully so he can have access to all of his techniques. Which I don't think either of these are happening, considering how little time it takes for Yuta Akotsu to use his domain expansion. Because might I remind you of what Yuta Akotsu has access to through his domain expansion, which are attacks like Cleave, as well as attacks like Jacob's Ladder, which basically full counters Yuji and is going to purge him away, as well as Yuta Akotsu and Rika just constantly barraging him with damage. Now, yes, I think Yuji is physically stronger than him thanks to all the Black Flashes that have amped him. I don't think that physical strength is going to be enough for him by this point, because of the amount of attacks that Yuta Akotsu is going to barrage on Yuta. Sack that with Rika also being there. Sack that with Yuji having to keep Simple Domain up active the entire time, which while I do think Yuji's Simple Domain is strong, I don't think it's going to be strong enough for him to be able to win against Yuta Akotsu. Like, it's all just too much for Yuji to deal with, especially right now. Now,
and here's the big thing, right? Even if you want to argue that Yuta is now weaker physically than Yuji, in spite of his feats on a stronger Sukuna, with his bare hands and a sword, you cannot make an argument he's stronger than Rika. You can't. Once again, Ryu, highest output in the Culling games, took damage from Rika's hits. They're at best, if you once again get on your knees and slop Yuji off instead of Hakari this time, you still can't. I'm sorry. Yuji, it's a horror. Like, once again, like I said, I was willing to give I'm so happy he gave my girl Maki. I'm sorry, toes curl. But that aside, yeah, obvious. Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have been trying to slide him up there. They've been trying to put him above Yuta. I don't see that. And that's crazy. Like, I've definitely developed, like, a reputation as, like, an anti-Yuta guy. But, like, no. I find that delusional still. Nah, we just don't have enough. Give him some more time. Let him unlock some crazy stuff. Give him World Slash or something. Give him his domain or something.
Maybe we can
right now he's still a
topic later in the future when we find out even more about Yuji to see if Yuji can win or have a better chance. But right now, Yuta just kind of slams him because I don't see Yuji stopping him from activating his domain expansion. Now, it is an interesting topic whether Yuji is actually able to sever the bond between Rika and Yuta. But even if it was possible, it would never happen because of how busted Yuta Akotsu's domain actually is. Like, genuinely, I don't see a way that Yuji ends up winning this fight. Now, I do think it would take some time because Yuji's healing is still a massive issue and he's very good at RCT, but at the same time, it's only going to be inevitable until Yuji is defeated through all these attacks. Now, I do know that Yuji is capable of nerfing output as well, but I don't think he's going to get the chance to nerf Yuta's output because of how relentless Yuta and Rika are going to be in this domain. And yeah, that's the video. So while I do see Yuji winning against Hakari, I do not see Yuji winning against Maki or Yuta. However, I did want to make this video to note down Yuji's progress and how much stronger he should be awakened in comparison to his normal self, and just how much progress he made over the time skip, because I still think it is very, very impressive. I also want to say this: Yuji, Yuta, Maki, and Hakari should all be relative and on the same level. Now, yes, I do think that Yuta and Maki both beat Yuji, but that's more because Yuta and Maki are very bad matchups for a lot of characters, just like they're very bad matchups for Yuji. However, that's my opinion on where I think they go, so I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. Was I downplaying Hakari a bit? Was I highballing Maki and Yuta a bit? Was I highballing Yuji a bit? I want to hear what y'all think in the comment section down below. I'm going to see y'all later. Peace out. Hope y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.
Alright, W video, and I made it in time of the binding vow. Hallelujah! Fun fact, for those who don't know, because I didn't mention it, binding vows only allow the videos to be twice as long as the original reaction video. This video is 19 minutes and 16 seconds long, so let me wrap this up real quick so make sure I don't escape. Yeah, I agree with everything Flame said. Shock horror. He's a great content creator, and we share a lot of opinions. W's. If you want to see me go in depth on any of these matchups, I'm more than willing to. I'm probably going to go in depth on Yuji versus Maki anyway, because I've been seeing a bunch of Maki slander, and I can't let that slide. But regardless, Make sure you check out the link to the original video. It'll be in the description down below. Make sure to go check out Flame's channel. Get him to 10K. The man deserves it. Gosh darn, I'm shocked. The amount of views he gets, comparison to the sub count, I don't get the mathematics on that. I get the mathematics on mine. Like, the views just don't really line up. But would that be the case? I don't get the mathematics. He should be at 10K. He should probably be at like 15K by now with the consistent amount of views he gets. But still, regardless, go check the boy out. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave meat slapper. Leave a meat slapper in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little keys bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. I'll get exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, ad-free reactions to all my videos, and if you become a $25 Patreon, $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, the link to my Ko-Fi's in the description down below if you want to make a one-time video request. $5 for short videos, $25 for long videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Zach with Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Kleiner Plays, Greyhound, Kids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, G Prosper, Paris Arnold, King Sukuna, and NMA. I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Steron, Sean, Owexian, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Josh Brown, John Malcolm, and Igneal Lynn. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member, Autumn Mornings Lazo. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 members, Robbie Uchiha and Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give another big old thank you to our $10 patrons, Panda Goat, Joaquin Munoz, and Idemo Kami. And finally, I'd like to give a big, hefty Ganshu thank yous to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. I'd like to give another Ganshu and toe curling slobba dabba thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.